So the Latin-rite Catholics in the Middle East have a new church leader, and some French goods and activities are being boycotted across the MENA and Gulf regions. How? Why? Welcome to Intuitive Reactions, the MENA and Gulf regions. This is number 20. I literally have to go back to the time when I was in Naples. And I remember during that time, an Italian man, a big, imposing Italian man, who spoke very good Arabic, and who used to be my dad's patient. He used to come to our house for dinner sometimes. And those are some memories that I still have somewhere at the back of my brain. Now, why am I talking about this man? Who is this mysterious man? This mysterious Arabic-speaking Italian was then the patriarch or the church leader for the Latin-rite Catholics across Jordan, Cyprus, and Israel and Palestine. Following this man, Beltriti was his name, the next patriarch was Michel Sabah. So from a big, imposing Italian church leader, the church and the Christian faithful of that part of the world got Michel Sabah as their new patriarch. Now, Michel Sabah was a diminutive man, comparatively speaking to Beltriti. And he was, and I say this unashamedly, one of my gurus during the times that I worked both with the churches and with second track negotiations between Israel and the Palestinians on behalf of all the 13 traditional churches of Jerusalem. Now, when Patriarch Michel Sabah retired, this Palestinian man from Nazareth was replaced by another Arab from Jordan by the name of Fuad Twal. Fuad Twal served from 2008 to 2016, and one of the legacies, the sad legacies he left, is that there was the budget of the patriarchate was some $100 million in the red at the time of his departure. That was partly because, sorry, perhaps the donations had dried up a bit by the end of his term in Jerusalem at the Latin Patriarchate, but also because he went into a very ill-advised venture of creating a new university in Jordan that simply did not take off and was basically swallowing money at an unusual rate. In 2016, when this Jordanian church leader, Fuad Twal, left the Patriarchate, the Vatican appointed a pontifical administrator, an Italian, again, Pierbattista Pizzaballa, who had been the custos, the leader of the Franciscan order in Jerusalem for a number of years. Now, the Franciscans are an ascetic order, but the reason I suspect that Pizzaballa was appointed by Rome to become the political administrator, not the leader or patriarch, at the time was pretty much to balance the books of the Patriarchate and to get it out of the red mess that it had found itself in during the previous years. So basically, spanning some 3-4 decades, I'm moving with you from Beltriti, the Italian, to Sabah, the Palestinian, to Twal, the Jordanian. And then, since 2016, for the last 4 years, the apostolic administrator, Pierbattista Pizzaballa, did a wonderful job in balancing the books. And then a couple of days ago came the announcement that after some consultations that had been going on for a while, he has now been appointed officially as the new patriarch of the Latin-rite Catholics in Palestine, Israel, Jordan, and Cyprus, which is the geographical jurisdiction of that patriarchate. Hence, my few words today. But why? I address the how in a nutshell. You fill in the gaps, or again, you go and do your research. It's all there online. The why is the bit that bothers me a little bit. Having served in Jerusalem, both with the Middle East Council of Churches and with the Jerusalem Interchurch Committee during those fraught years of Oslo, I was very conscious of the hierarchical order of the 13 traditional churches of Jerusalem. It started with the Greek Orthodox Patriarchate, followed by the Armenian Patriarchate, followed by the Latin Patriarchate, and then the 3 patriarchates were followed by the 10 churches of different families and traditions serving across that geographical region. And if you look at those 3 patriarchates at the top of the pyramid, the Greek Orthodox Patriarchate has been led by a Greek man. There have been 3 or 4, I can't remember, and all have been Greek. Some speak better Arabic than others, but they have been Greek. They have not been sons of those lands. They have not been Arabs, let alone Palestinians or Jordanians. The Armenian Patriarchate distinguishes itself with its ethnic identity. I mean, you can't be Armenian and Arab at the same time. You can have affiliations, you can have cultural proclivities, but you can't be both. So in a sense, I'm not really surprised that during the times that I've been familiar with the Patriarchate, there have been 3 patriarchs, all Armenian. More understandable under the circumstances because their constituency, their faithful are Armenian. Whereas with the Greek Orthodox Patriarchate, they are all, most of them at least, are Arabs. Then the Latin Patriarchate. Some 300,000 Latin-rite Catholics, more or less, in this jurisdiction that the Latin Patriarchate serves. When the move happened from the Italian to the Palestinian, and even from the Palestinian to the Jordanian, I was quite happy because the local people were getting one of their own to represent them. But now the Vatican has decided to bring back an Italian to become the new patriarch. Now he might be the most competent man, the most pious man, the most able man in terms of administration, in terms of pastoral work. He used to be responsible for the Hebrew-speaking Catholics in that region under the aegis of the Patriarchate. That's also a plus. But he's not an Arab. He's not even a Cypriot. He's somebody from the outside coming back into Jerusalem and becoming the leader of a huge number relatively speaking, because the Catholics are such a minority within a very small Christian presence in that part of the world anyway. He's being brought to represent them. Why an Italian? Why not again an Arab? And the questions that arise in my head are, is this a message that the Arabs, the Palestinians, the Jordanians cannot really have the skills and the calling to lead this patriarchate and those 300,000 Latin-rite Catholics? Is it that they don't have the ecumenical outreach? I would disagree with that, strongly sometimes. Or is it that this is a political appointment as much as a pastoral appointment? Is it that the Italian Beltriti, my dad's patient and our dinner friend, was right for the times in the 60s, because colonization was still part of the thinking of the church as well? Then, when Michel Sabah came, it was during the peace process between Israelis and Palestinians, so the Vatican thought of a Palestinian. Then when all that fell flat, they got a Jordanian. And now it's almost like saying, well, doesn't really matter, let's get an Italian. Especially one who's very fluent in Hebrew, by the way, but his Arabic leaves a lot to be desired. Now, there have been messages of congratulations from the Latin Patriarchate, of course, a very long and nice welcome from the knights and dames of the Holy Order of the Holy Sepulchre, from other organizations as well. And I welcome him too. I have nothing against the man. In fact, even though he was the leader of the custos of the Franciscan order in Jerusalem for many years, I did not get to know him as well as I did his predecessors. So I don't have any gripe against the man in person, but I have against what this appointment represents. And I might be in the minority in the sense that the majority of people might welcome him, or most people would prefer to politically stay mum. And here I am raising this in one of my YouTube episodes. But it is important. It is as important for the Greek Orthodox Patriarchate, which has a much, much bigger Arab constituency in that part of the world, as it is for the Catholics to have a local, regional person be their church leader. This is because he understands, and it's always a he at the moment, he understands the realities of the region, bonds with those realities in a way that's different from somebody coming from abroad, no matter how good or how well versed that person is. I'm not going to go into Orientalism and another discussion now, but I'm going to say that I was surprised that the choice eventually fell upon Father, now his beatitude, Patriarch Pierbattista Pizzaballa, when there should have been others that Pope Francis could have chosen from for this appointment. And this also touches upon another aspect that is quite important for Christians in the region, be they Palestinians, be they Jordanians, be they of other denominations and nationalities. And that is the whole concept of liberation theology in these circles. Now, this liberation theology is something that reminds us of Latin America, perhaps, much more than it reminds us of the Levant or the Middle East. But as I spoke with a friend and one of the actors in Bethlehem, Reverend Dr. Mitri Rahib, on a previous YouTube episode a few weeks ago, where we discussed Kairos, the whole body of liberation theology and ecumenism in Palestinian territories and across that geographical region, it is important for the faith, for the gospel, to be local, rooted in local realities. It is important for it to rise above only scriptural understanding of what he said and what he did, to one where it addresses issues of justice. And therefore, in other words, a theology that is liberated of its shackles, one that is no longer then under Roman occupation, now in Palestine under Israeli occupation. So in a sense, I would say I raised my eyebrows when I heard of this appointment a couple of days ago, and I thought, I wish the man well. I wish the patriarchate well. I wish all the friends I have, many, many of them, who belong to the Latin-rite Catholic Church, well, success, prosperity, ease of life. But there is a substantial issue there, and that issue goes to the heart of the identity of what it means to be a Christian these days in the Arab world. And for the remaining couple of minutes, I just want to create even more controversy, stir up a bit more controversy by going and talking for just brief words, because I'm running out of time, as you know, about this huge effort to boycott French goods and activities across the region because of the reactions, the actions, the words of President Emmanuel Macron of France. Now, I'm not here to defend Emmanuel Macron. I'm not his lawyer, nor am I here to defend France. I'm here simply to say that if the reactions that are coming are because of the French ideas of separation of religion and state matters, laïcité in French, give to God what's to God and Caesar what's to Caesar, then that's another argument that doesn't need those boycotts. But more to the point, if it is basically because of the reaction that the French authorities had to the decapitation, the beheading of Samuel Paty, that young French teacher, who was basically teaching the students about religions, including Islam and including the revered prophet Muhammad, there I have a serious issue. And I'm not going to go into the metaphysics of why and how, etc. In 2 minutes, that is well nigh impossible. But what I'm going to say is, if we are confident of our identity, we do not need to worry so much when our foes, let's call them foes for the sake of argument, attack that identity. Christians, and Charlie Hebdo constantly makes fun of Christians, makes fun of Jesus, our Lord and Savior for Christians, another prophet for Islam. From films that have been written, programs that have been made, from The Last Temptation of Christ to what's happened recently, if you have faith and if you have the strength and the conviction of your faith, it is the way you deal with that faith rather than anything else. It's the strength you have and the conviction you have in that faith, not by going and boycotting goods and activities, or worse, having some scurrilous attacks about the mental ability or agility of the French president, as the Turkish president did twice recently, as if once was not enough to insult another fellow president. And I think we should also establish a moral equivalence a comparative equivalence between beheading, killing somebody, a teacher, a young teacher who was trying to expand the horizons of his students, even though some of them might have disagreed with him, and the attitude, the reactions that we are witnessing today. That in itself, tying it into the longer words I had on the appointment of the new patriarch in Jerusalem, that also, in my head, ties in with what we understand as Christians, perhaps, by liberation theology. I leave you with those two thoughts. They're food for thought. They're seeds again. You can let the seeds dry and die, or you can look them up and do whatever you want with them. Don't shoot the messenger. Think about the message. Take care.